Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of Comic Timing. This is a special edition as it is live and in person, not with Ian Levinstein, but with your host, co-host with the most, Brent Casina, myself, and my good buddy, who you may hear on our video games podcast on this channel from time to time, or his own YouTube channel, Viper Magic, Jim Fantas.
Hello, true believers, and Excelsior.
Spoken like a wannabe comic book fan that's trying to fit in with the true one.
I just
over here.
blend in quietly in the background.
So, if you guys don't know, Jim and I, not regularly, yearly, do a podcast on here where we do top video games. We would like to do more of them, but stuff gets in the way, like me being sick, first of all.
Yes.
If you caught the last video game episode of 2018, you would know that I had the flu, bronchitis, pneumonia, the whole thing, lost my voice right before the holidays. It came back, and then I went back to work after the holidays, and I lost it again. So we're kind of back on that uphill thing, regaining my voice. So if I cough or I sound different, please excuse me, I'm sick. But I couldn't wait to not do podcasts with Jim when we had some free time to do it together.
Yes.
So
What are we here to talk about today, Brent?
we are here to talk about and review, among other things. We'll probably go off topic.
Okay.
But last night we did something fun. We had a little mandate.
Mandate?
We went to a Fathom Events.
Yes.
And we watched a double feature of the Death of Superman DC animated movie, followed by the premiere of the next movie in the series, Reign of the Supermen.
Yes. What a cool title.
It was a cool title.
The Death of Superman, but Reign of the Superman. Was it Reign of the Superman or
Reign of the Supermen.
Okay, that was really cool. Really cool.
So Jim is dabbling, I guess, in comic books. I'm giving him stuff to read.
I am.
And you will find his reviews of the stuff I give him to read on my YouTube channel. And sometimes I'll post them on the Comic Timing Facebook page as well, so you can catch them there if you want.
Ooh.
But he's also watched a few of these animated movies. You watched Batman Ninja,
Yes.
which you really liked.
I loved Batman Ninja a lot. Really good.
Did you watch the Suicide Squad one? Or
No, I guess just that list.
I told you that.
That's such a build-up.
That one.
I feel embarrassed. No, I mean, I read... I'm trying to think. No, I don't... Didn't you say there was a cartoon for The Dark Knight Returns?
Yes, you did watch that one.
I did.
thought.
I believe I watched that. I know I read the comic book, but all I really have to go on is Batman Ninja, which right now is the definitive comic book cartoon. Are we calling these movies is it offensive to say cartoon? You know
I don't think so.
You know, like to say comic book is really a graphic novel, or like, is there a terminology that should I use?
Comic fans sometimes get upset about the top list of graphic novels
Right.
in the mainstream media because they'll throw in a collection of stories from time to time. Say you'll collect Batman 501 to 516.
Right.
And you call it a graphic novel. It's not a graphic novel. It's a trade paperback of those stories. It's a collected edition, basically. A graphic novel in our world really means, we really mean to say like an original graphic novel, where it's one story start to finish. Kind of like your current read that you should start, Batman Earth 1.
Yes.
That did not come out in a bunch of single issues, or we call them floppies. Didn't come out that way. It came out in a hardcover, first and only time.
Okay.
And it said one story start to finish, beginning to end. There you go.
So the terminology is did we see a cartoon or an animated movie?
I guess you
or
could go with
film.
Animated movie.
Okay.
I don't know if we would call it film because most of them are direct to DVD. Cartoon implies almost as if it's more kiddies. And that's why graphic novels kind of broke away talking about comics. Because comic books at one point in time felt like you're talking down to us. And it was more about the kids, whereas graphic novels implies more of a sense of maturity, right? It's a novel.
So this Death of Superman, this is from the 90s. I vaguely remember reading, I think it's just a cover, that iconic cover of Superman's cape blowing in the breeze.
Yes.
That's the cover of something. I remember reading that.
Yes. Superman died in Superman 75. And in 1994, I believe, 95.
Okay. Do you want to do a synopsis, or can I start asking questions immediately?
No, I think you can start asking questions. So basically, just to give a primer for people who
do you want me to spoil
watch,
it, or do you want me to be vague? Because I don't want to ruin it for people.
we can do spoilers.
I don't want to.
But I think what you're going to end up doing most of the time is asking questions regarding to it.
Here's what I want to know first and foremost.
But I want to give a primer for people.
Oh, go ahead.
So
I'm sorry.
DC does these animated movies. They're the only comic company that does them. They started them a long time ago with Superman Doomsday, which I have on the Vudu account that I gave to you to try and get you to watch shit. Superman Doomsday was released in 2007.
Wow.
So they've had like 35 of these animated movies. So 2007, Superman Doomsday was actually the first adaptation of the Death of Superman storyline. And it halfway through this, these are usually like 70-minute movies, so an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes. They don't really cross into an hour and a half.
Right.
So they save money on animation now.
Short and sweet. Get in, get out.
So the first Superman Doomsday movie was pretty much what you saw in Death of Superman up until the halfway mark, maybe 35, 40 minutes in. That fight is also very good, but that fight was also, I think they had one of the voices for Superman from the 90s animated series came back. And then there were some other new voices as well for Lex Luthor and Lois Lane and stuff. Okay. But that drastically changed the reign of the Supermen when Superman came back to life. Like the second movie we saw last night, none of that is in this original adaptation of Superman Doomsday. Okay. And it's even further almost a bastardization because there's a trade paperback collection of stories called Superman Doomsday, which is basically Doomsday's comic book history before the New 52 reboot. There's a bunch of collected stories and stuff like that. So, they pick what they like sometimes in these animated movies.
I'm okay with that.
In terms of titles, storylines, whatever.
Sure.
So this is their first, they were like, okay, we're going to do Death of Superman. We're going to do it right. We're going to do Reign of the Superman. We're going to do it right. And I think they did a pretty good job. Now, if you want to know about the comics, you should go and watch Superman Doomsday. You really have to buy it or find the Blu-ray DVD because there's a special feature. It's probably on YouTube, but it's basically how they wrote the big crossover from Superman, Death of Superman to Reign of the Superman over a year and a half. And there was a time where Superman died. Then they had a follow-up comics with the funeral. It's called Funeral Without a Friend. And then there were no Superman books for a few months. So everybody was like, oh shit, he's really dead. They're not continuing Action Comics, not continuing Superman, not continuing Adventures of Superman or Man of Steel. There were no publishing, no announcements, nothing. And then they announced 4 new books, same numbering, but 5 months later, and each one had a different cover. And it was one of each book had featured one of these new Supermen, Eradicator, Cyborg Superman, Superboy, and Steel. And then each title followed that Superman for a little bit on individual adventures until close to the end, when then they started all tying in together. And then Superman came back to life. They found out Cyborg Superman's a bad guy, and they teamed up against him to fight Mongol, not Darkseid. And then, Superman got his powers in the black suit, had a mullet, all that stuff. So that's why Reign of Superman is pretty close to the comic storyline. But what was nice is that they used Darkseid as a way to wrap up the new universe that they started with their animated movies with Justice League War, where Darkseid invades and they form the Justice League. So it was a nice beginning, end. We don't know if there's going to be another end, and that'll end up being in the middle, but it's cool how they tie these things together. So this is the 33rd, 35th movie of all these little DC stuff. Some of them are adaptations, some of them are brand new, some of them are a mixed bag, some of them are really good, but these two, Death of Superman especially, I think is the better of the two. But I really enjoyed both of these.
Agreed. I think Death of Superman was way better. The only thing that did not make sense, and without going overly top in the weeds.
You can spoil because this story.
No, not me spoil. So you don't bore me.
I can see you getting bored. I'm telling you all this cool
I'm
stuff.
listening, but I want to know why Doomsday shows up. Is there a quick, just a high level reason why he shows up? Not like a 2 hour
In the comics?
anything.
No.
Okay, he just shows up and just starts murdering.
He shows up. He
shows up and he's like, I'm gonna kill everybody, and that's how it starts.
He shows up. He has no voice. He never talks.
Yeah, he
grunts.
I don't even think, he grunted a little bit.
He shows up in a green suit, and over the course of 4 issues,
Wrecks everybody.
Wrecks the Justice League at the time, which is not the ones in the animated movies. A bunch of like third string characters and stuff.
Yes.
And then Superman comes and they battle, and that's it.
Okay, when you were reading the story the first time,
his backstory is explained and made up from whole cloth much later.
Does anybody honestly believe that Superman can die?
No.
So when this all happened, you were a fan of comics, I assume, when this, back in the Justice League 75 or
whatever. I was a
whatever.
little kid. I don't even think I knew that this happened when it happened.
My point
I knew
is
after the fact.
Obviously, because it was a 2-part movie.
Right.
I had a pretty good inclination that he was going to come back.
Right.
But the guy doesn't die. Like, he's immortal, basically. That's his gimmick.
Yes, and he actually, it's called Death of Superman, but he never actually dies.
That's the thing. He just kind of gets knocked out.
He gets knocked out.
And he has to go heal.
No heartbeat, no whatever, has to go heal. You're right.
So, I think the whole premise, I don't know. The fact that Superman is an alien trying to be the most iconic human is really neat. I think that's a really cool spin. He's trying to fit in and he wants to be a guy, just a dude bro. You know, he's got girlfriend problems and he's all this stuff. I like that. But not for 1 second that I didn't even think Doomsday, like when he punched him and Superman had those like little red lines on his face. I'm like, Superman wouldn't have. He doesn't get a bloody lip. You could shoot with a bullet and it just bounces off him. Like, this guy's punches aren't that strong.
Well, I mean, he still retains dirt. His suit gets dirty. His suit rips and stuff. All that's in the comics.
Okay, so I don't remember. Maybe I'm mixing it up with Spawn, or I don't know. I thought his cape was like invulnerable.
No.
Like, I thought his cape.
Well, there are different versions of the origin.
Okay.
Which say the cape is the blanket he was wrapped in as a baby.
Yes.
And somehow it's magically this size, but you'll see the size, alternate.
I just thought that
Superman in this movie's cape came down to like his mid-thighs, his knees. Superman in the movies, sometimes his cape comes down to the floor. So it's like, did you wrap him in a blanket or in a fucking bed sheet?
In the continuity, I get it. You're talking 90s versus the New 52, which was 2015?
2011.
Oh, that's how long ago
Yeah.
it was? Oh my God. I remember reading Superman, the first Superman Action Comics one, he didn't have a cape. He just had blue jeans. Mm-hmm. And I thought like he found his cape at some point and it was like a bulletproof wall or something.
Right. Yeah. So, it changes.
Okay.
So it changes from time to time.
I understand.
If it comes from Krypton, usually it's like super fabric.
Okay. So I will. Okay. I'm not gonna pick on that. I agree with you. From a layman who knows minimal of this stuff, it was easy to follow. They did the right thing with comic books, not just comic books, movies in general, where when they introduced a new character, it wasn't like, "What's up, my girlfriend Lois Lane?" Nothing, cameraman Jimmy Olsen. Like, they just talk like normal people, which I appreciate because I feel like I don't know if this movie was made for a guy like you or a guy like me. Because I followed it you might have been bored to death, but I followed it because they logically introduced new characters in a way that wasn't like really ham-fisted, like, oh, look, here is my boss. I don't know the boss's name. That's not a good example.
Perry White.
Yeah, Perry White. Here is my boss.
Great Caesar's ghost. Said that in the second one.
He did say that. So I'm glad they did that. So it was easy to follow along, and what I liked was it was a good length where it didn't go over the top. They got right to it. You didn't have a 45-minute dissertation on people's origins. It just, here it is.
Right.
The thing I think that I get that it's Superman's story, the death of Superman, obviously. The Justice League element of it was cool because you kind of see how important he is to the Justice League. But you could have probably gotten rid of half the Justice League or all of them, other than Wonder Woman, and they really didn't.
Right. So
it wasn't their story, though. I understand that. That's what I'm trying to say. But Flash was just like a big goober, and it's like, hey, Flash, go go help the civilians. Gee, okay. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And he zips around. I'm like, you are not important. I'd rather have 5 seconds of Superman standing there glistening in the sun than listen to you talk. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't want to be that kind of critic, but like, it started to annoy me.
Well, then you wouldn't have the humor.
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned humor because the second, to me, I agree with you. The first portion,
Death of Superman,
was very good. Very good. It was very emotional. Seeing Clark / Superman tell Lois he loved her, introduce him to his folks, basically sacrifice himself. I think he kind of knew in his head when he was doing that final punch in Doomsday. Like, I thought Doomsday was going to impale him, like hold a sword out, and Superman was just going to like spear himself and just collapse and die.
Well, that's what happened in Batman v Superman. He spears himself.
Pretty much just like Soda. I think he knew that was it. Like when Lois threw a rock at the guy and she was crying, and he's like, okay, this is it. I'm going to basically end this now, but it's going to cost me everything. I thought that was like a really good tone. But the second part of the movie was like a stand-up comedy show, and it lost so much like emphasis.
Superboy is very comedic.
He is. He's like a big goober. And
but that's true to the character at the time.
I understand.
True to the storyline.
I understand. I'm just saying that you were at the beginning. You were explaining the dissertation. You were kind of walking through of like the lineage of, of how the books and stuff came out.
Well, like if you didn't have the Justice League get beat down in,
I think it was important.
Death of Superman. They did that in the Superman Doomsday, the first movie they ever made.
I think,
and it wasn't like it lost a lot of it. You lost the importance of the fact that Doomsday beat everybody all at once.
Single-handedly.
Like Martian Manhunter is viewed as, almost as powerful as Superman. Flight, strength, speed. He's got the intangibility. He's got the mind stuff he can do. I don't know if he has heat vision or whatever. Yeah, he's scared of flames, which you laughed when he got thrown into the gas station and started screaming. His one weakness, like Superman has kryptonite, Martian Manhunter's is fire. But it's a mind thing. It's because his family was burnt up in a fire on Mars. So it's a trigger for him.
Too soon, bro.
But you lose all that impact of the fact that this big guy is this bad. He beat the entire Justice League. He beat Wonder Woman twice, basically.
Yeah, because she got super powerful and he broke her sword and all that.
He fought her with the Justice League, and then she went back, which was a cool scene. Like Wonder Woman's like,
yes,
fuck this, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker, and then went back and still got her ass beat. Kicked. So it amplifies how strong he is.
It makes him a badass, but I feel like you took those really cool tones in the first one, and then the second one it just seemed like, it was almost like a tale of two stories. It got much like more goobery. Like Steel's identity was revealed within seconds. It was just so clear who it was. He's got this secret layer where the parts like Iron Man are flying off.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you forgot to close the window. It's like, this is so dumb. Like, you ruined these cool... There's so much better ways they could have done this.
So a lot of those are animation cheats.
Okay.
And so here's the reason I think why part one, or not part one, but why Death of Superman is so much better than Reign of the Supermen. So Death of Superman's written by this, or adapted, really, by this guy, Peter Tomasi. He's a really good comic book writer, really skilled, really talented.
Okay.
And so he was an editor for DC Comics for a long time before he became a writer. Very good writer, knows his stuff. I don't think I've ever read a bad story from him in the books.
Okay.
He adapted Death of Superman, so all that pathos, all the emotions, the Lois and Clark stuff, that's got to be all him. Reign of the Superman was not written by him.
And it was like 4 different people, probably.
Yeah.
Because you're saying each Superman had their own comic book, right? So they probably had their own artists.
Yeah, they had their own writers, own artists, own ideas.
I understand. So it's hard to rein that in then under one umbrella of... Okay, kind of like what they did with Star Wars movies, where the new Star Wars movies, everybody gets their turn at it, and they seem very disjointed.
Reign of the Superman was written by, it looks like Tim Sheridan, and there was another name credited, but I can't see on IMDb because they list all the creators of the different Supermen as writers on the movie on IMDb for some reason. But, I think they had different directors also. Sam Liu directed Reign of the Supermen, and Jake Castorona and Sam Liu directed Death of Superman. So you had different creative teams doing different stories, and different writer, I think, really is what makes the difference between the tone of Death of Superman and Reign of the Superman. And the plot is totally different. One, you're supposed to be heartbroken at the end of Death of Superman.
That was really emotional when Lois
Reign
was
of the
crying.
Superman is kind of meant to be a mystery, kind of meant to be fun, and it's jubilant at the end when Superman comes back. You had that whole animated scene where Superman flies through all that stuff. That was the first time I've ever seen them in most of these DC animated movies do a Superman flying animation like that. They spent a lot of time and money on those shots of Superman when he put the suit back on, those last couple of shots.
Oh, okay.
Like him flying around. They didn't look that great to me, but they've never shown that before. He usually comes down, floats down, or flies across the screen because he's talking to somebody. It's expedient. It's animation. They're not glorious shots of Superman typically. But those were glorious shots of Superman at the end.
Okay, so that makes sense. So maybe the tone was intended to be a little more lighthearted because they were trying to reintroduce. Because you're saying back in the '90s there was a 5-month period when there wasn't. Mm-hmm. So maybe the intent was to be more lighthearted to get people like, we wouldn't have really killed Superman.
Well, yeah, I think that's why they call it Death of Superman and Reign of the Superman. It's not part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
They didn't come up with Superman Doomsday part 1 and part 2 the way that Dark Knight Returns, those animated movies, originally are part 1 and part 2.
I think
with the same writer, same director, same tone.
Well, I'm not going to pick on... And the story is a story, and obviously the cartoon is limited in its scope of what it can do.
Right.
I mean, not the cartoon, you know what I mean? The animated film, sorry. I asked you what you wanted me to say, and then I said it.
Just call it the movie.
And I even wrote cartoon, and
We were in a movie theater, we got popcorn, we got soda, we got candy. It was a
One
movie.
Coke, 2 straws, which was funny.
Yeah, that was weird. You wanted 2 straws? I'm like, no, I want 1 straw.
Okay, so I can't pick on it too much. I have to say that, to me, I really like the way that each of the 4 Supermen at the end were portrayed of... They all kind of had to claim, like, could they really be the Superman? Like, are they, you know... Mm-hmm. I was kind of surprised, though, how quickly Superboy kind of doubted himself because, like... Everybody seemed like, I'm really Superman. And I know the movie. I didn't mean to do that. I know the movie tried to really make the people believe that Cyborg Superman was the real one. Because he looked the most like Superman. And he had the best story.
Right.
Of like, hey, it's really me, but I have robot parts, but it's really me. I kind of forgot my memory, blah, blah, blah. So I can understand that, but I had hoped, and maybe they did this better in the comics, it was very quickly that, like, none of these guys are... They're all... in not knowing what happened, I kept thinking they're all going to merge into one person. Like you have the will of Superman, the strength of Superman, whatever, and then they all and then he reappears.
He gets split into 4 personalities.
Somehow I thought that was kind of like
this ain't Kingdom Hearts, Jim. Okay.
Yeah, I was expecting this merge of these bodies.
Sounds like Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I was expecting this to happen, and then it was very clear. I was like, okay, none of these guys are. So I thought it was kind of neat how at the end the real Superman was just like, yo,
I'm here.
I'm hanging out in this little house. I'm cool.
So Superboy, like how quickly he started doubting himself, like that is all, it's not new to the movie, but they accelerated his timeline. Like Superboy thought he was a clone of Superman, period, end of story.
Yes.
For the longest time, for over 10 years. When Jeff Johns started writing the Teen Titans, he used Superboy.
Gotcha.
That's when Superboy got the black t-shirt, costume, and jeans. If you've seen that.
No.
Anyway, that's when the half parentage of Clark Kent and half parentage of Lex Luthor was introduced.
Okay.
Wasn't until much later. They put that in the movie.
Gotcha.
And made him a pawn of Luthor.
So as somebody who hasn't read the comics, but somebody who has read books and then seen film adaptations of said books, I like it when they take creative liberties. I don't think you have to be a purist in the movie. So the fact that the movie did things differently in the comic, I'm okay with.
No, I'm fine with that because they did it well. What I liked about Superboy in Reign of the Supermen was that they pulled that part back. Like they moved it further in his time frame so that because if he didn't know that, he would have been an asshole the entire way through. You never would have liked him.
Right.
And then because he found out these weird things, he saw Luthor do terrible things, and he was doubting Luther's leadership. Like, why am I following this guy?
Yeah, he finally
Oh, he's my dad. Am I going to be just like this guy?
Yeah.
All that stuff made him more relatable.
I agree. And at the end, when he flew away and decided to help out, Luther's like, go back to your room, and he's like,
he joined the Teen Titans. So if they make they have made a Teen Titans animated movie in this universe. If they make another one, they should have Superboy in it.
So there's a lot of things. I really like the animation. It reminded me of like a 90s cartoon. I don't know why. Maybe because I watch cartoons. I haven't watched it. But I like the animation. I think it's funny, just an observation. Maybe all movies are like this. Most superheroes are extremely reckless. Yes, you have the moment where the bridge is falling on that little boy and Superman saves him. Okay, got it. You're going to save the kids.
Yeah, 30 seconds later, a whole section of the bridge falls down with cars.
Yes.
Are there people there? Did they get saved?
Punching through buildings, throwing semi-trucks. There's like at least 5 or 6 explosive barrels or oil or something.
That's
nonchalantly throwing people through it, uppercutting them through buildings. I'm like, you guys have caused $80 billion of damage.
That is a cartoon and comic book caveat.
I get it.
Happens all the time because it's cool.
Yeah.
Because you can have the artist draw all the stuff,
Watching Superman get punched and digging up 3 feet of pavement for 1.5 miles is awesome. And you're right. It's all like the rubble noise when he gets up and the punch him through the statue.
Like Dragon Ball Z when Goku is fighting Frieza and he gets knocked across halfway across the planet
and stuff.
And you just see this giant mound of dirt behind him because he's been sliding for so long.
Right.
He was punched with so much energy.
It's just an observation because I don't normally watch these, so I just thought it was funny. I just kept thinking wow, you guys just don't care. When Superman's shooting his laser vision at the other guy and he deflects and it goes off and hits a skyscraper, I'm like, you probably just killed 40 people, dude.
Well, that's why, you saw it, Batman v Superman, they start with that scene of Superman and the heat vision, cutting, you see the true reality of all that destruction and people dying and stuff. And some people liked it, some people didn't, but...
Yeah, the Batman versus...
The reality check, yeah.
Yeah, Batman vs. Superman was the best movie of Batman. I know we go over this. Speaking of Batman, good transition. They need a better Batman voice. I told you this today at lunch, but I'll say it again now.
Yep.
The Batman voice in this cartoon sucks.
I don't disagree. He's played by Jason O'Mara. He's a British actor. He does a serviceable Batman voice. I don't love it. I don't hate it. He's just okay. I've heard worse. Jeremy Sisto in the New Frontier Batman was pretty terrible.
Ninja Batman was a good Batman.
Ninja Batman was
and that was
good.
This guy.
Yeah, I forget who that was.
He's like, Alfred.
That might have been Kevin Conroy.
Okay.
I want to say
why can't they get him?
Well, so Kevin Conroy did the...
I don't care about continuity. Batman sounded like a twerp. He just sounded like a little scrawny kid. He wasn't... Okay, so Batman is dark and brooding and menacing, and then he talks, and it's like, that's not Batman. He's like a jokester, like a jester.
I don't know what to tell you, honestly. What's his name? Batman, Kevin Conroy can't be Batman every time.
Why?
I don't know why. They choose not to use him every time. Roger Craig Smith was Batman in Batman Ninja.
Great. And he was great. And
famous voice actor. You might know him as Batman in Arkham Origins. I didn't know that. I thought that was, what's his name? He's Ezio in Assassin's Creed. All of those.
Wait, the guy that's Ezio in Assassin's Creed plays the Batman in this movie?
In Batman Ninja.
Oh, okay.
The one you liked.
All right, good. I was going to say those people didn't sound remotely close.
He is Sonic the Hedgehog. So the voice of Sonic in Smash.
This is what blows my mind. Okay, you have the Justice League. I mean, that is such a cool group of dudes and dudettes. You have Nathan Fillion. You have Cress Williams.
Yep.
You have so many people in this movie that I was like, I know that voice. I know that voice. I know that voice. And then this guy for Batman.
You pulled out, what's the girl from Mass Effect you like? BioWare really likes her.
I'm trying to blank.
She played the assistant and...
Well, all I'm thinking is video games.
Martha Kent. Jennifer Hale.
Jennifer, I was going to say Leah from Diablo, but no, that's who the character was. Yes, so and she also plays Ashe in Overwatch. But it's like, these are huge. Nathan Fillion has got to be worth like $1 billion an hour. He's such an iconic voice. He does so much voice work.
Because he's not that great of an actor.
I don't know. All I've ever.
If Nathan Fillion was a great actor, he would have been a movie star, not a TV star.
That's fine. Spartan Buck is all I gotta say. And then you got this Batman, and it's like, oh, I'm not gonna say it ruined the movie, but when Batman got knocked out, I was like, good, shut up and lay there.
It probably had to do with like who's available at the time when they decided to do this connected universe, the budget at the time, you know.
Because I thought the sound effects were phenomenal. All the way they walk, the door, everything just seemed to be turned up to 10. When they walk, it was like, cluck, 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 cluck. It sounded really good, like horse canter. The little rubbles, every little brick, when Superman stands up and the little pebbles falling off his hair, you hear it hit the ground. And then this guy. I'm not harping on it, but I'm harping on it. It sucked. Right. Another thing I didn't like. Lex Luthor's dorky power suit.
Oh, yeah.
All right. The only thing I know of Lex Luthor is he's this evil mastermind hell-bent on killing Superman. Fair?
Yes.
I played with him in Injustice. I loved his character model. It reminded me of Zangief from Street Fighter.
Injustice is a riff on the classic. That's the classic power suit. Is that not this mech thing he climbed in this one?
The fact that he had a suit, the mech suit, I'm okay with that. I get it because it's just like Iron Man. He's using his intelligence to make...
Why the mech suit wasn't a robot, I have no idea, though. Like, robotic control, stay in your fucking office. You're smarter than this.
That I agree with. But I think maybe it was a pride thing. But it
was a cool story point, though. Like, that's not in Death of Superman comic book. Mm-hmm. Lex Luthor and jumping in and shit. But, like, Superman saving Lex Luthor in that moment.
That was awesome.
Looking next to him, just going, not even saying anything, but, like, just giving him this look like, I saved you too.
Yeah.
Acknowledge this. And then back into the fight was a really cool moment.
That was a great moment, and I'm glad that happened because I think it added a lot of depth, and I feel like Lex Luthor's character kind of changed. Because even though he's kind of a scumbag in the second half, he was less of a scumbag.
Yeah, he was more focused on, like, saving the world.
But his power armor that he wore, he had, like, a projection of his face where his chest was, and it looked so freaking tacky.
It was weird.
I busted out laughing because it was...
It was an oversized head. It's like 3 times the size of his real head.
But it wasn't even where it should be. It wasn't like he had a hologram head. It was like he had no head. He had shoulders that just caved into nothing.
Into a big chest with a hologram head.
And then this, I asked you at the end, speaking of Lex Luthor, I said, do we need to stay? Is there a post-credit scene? And you said no, and I found out there was. And
after rating the Superman, really?
I'm really pissed. I'm really pissed at you.
I'm sorry.
I asked a coworker, and the scene is the Justice League is all in their secret base.
The Watchtower, okay.
And they're talking about going on the offensive against...
Darkseid?
Yes.
Interesting.
And Lex Luthor walks in his power armor. And Flash says, like, who left the door open?
Oh, man, it would have been cool to see. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to watch it again.
Okay, well, in 3 weeks when this comes out on Blu-ray and I come back from travel...
You can FaceTime me just that scene.
I will show you that scene. And you'll go, okay, great.
But my point is, I think Lex Luthor had a really good story arc, too. Because he was... Even though at this second half he took the neck brace off and he was still kind of a weasel, at the end of the day, I think he kind of realized the error of his ways.
Yeah.
I don't think he was that one-dimensional. I think he's still, like, if he could get away killing Superman, I think he would. But I think he realized that he needed him as an ally more than an enemy. And I thought that was awesome. I love those kind of, like, dark anti-hero things.
There's a bunch of stories in the comic books where, like, people ask Lex Luthor, like, hey, you think you're so freaking smart. Why didn't you do anything to help us?
Right.
You could have cured cancer. You could have, solved world hunger. You could have had world peace if only you'd focused on it, if you weren't so obsessed with Superman. There's an issue in a book called All-Star Superman, which I want you to read eventually. A whole issue. It's a great issue written by Grant Morrison, art by Frank Quietly, beautiful, where Luthor is in prison being interviewed by Clark Kent. And Kent's asking him some of these questions, and Luthor's going on about why he just can't get over Superman and do all these things. Or he's telling Kent, like, once I kill Superman, I will do this. I will do this. I will do this. I've got all these things already started and locked away that once I get rid of this obstacle in my path, like he's got blinders on only for Superman,
gotcha.
I will accomplish all these great things.
I gotcha. That sounds interesting. So I liked his arc. I still maintain the Justice League throwaways, but important. I thought Cyborg Superman was cool. His story was neat. It was pretty clear right away that...
Who was your favorite imposter Superman out of the 4?
Oh, 100%. Wait, looks or just badassery?
Just whatever.
Okay, lowest for sure, Superboy. He was the stupidest, and I didn't like him, and I'm glad he was out.
Okay.
Second worst, Eradicator.
Okay.
Because I didn't like the glasses.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't like that he shot lasers out of his hands, yet he had glasses. I'm like, use your like, he stuck his hand out, like, it looked like Mega Man pellets, like, pew, pew. Mm-hmm. Steel's design was badass, and I really appreciate that it's just a guy trying, that he was so inspired. I was kind of surprised that it wasn't the guy who owned the bar at the beginning.
Bibbo, yeah.
Because he was freaking in love with Superman.
He's gay for Superman.
So I thought for sure it'd be... Was Bibbo?
Bibbo.
I thought for sure it'd be Bibbo, but I'm like, he has no idea.
No technical ability whatsoever.
He's trying to make a shrimp sandwich for profit. So Steel was cool, and I love the hammer. I'm 100% certain that, although to me Reinhardt came first in Overwatch, I know that this was back in the 90s and Overwatch was now, but he reminds me of that. I love that when he wound up his hammer, it had a rocket on it.
Yeah, that was
for like
cool.
Those super hits. But I think the Skull Superman was really, really cool.
Cyborg Superman.
So I think I'd have to go with him because I just like that it reminded me of Terminator. And even though, kind of like in Terminator 2, where, really Arnold Schwarzenegger was really a bad guy reprogrammed, when you see this guy who's got like a half skull face, and he's like, hey, I'm here to help you, and he looks kind of weird, you can't really trust him, I thought that really matched his vibe. So I'd have to say, to me, I think Cyborg Superman was cool, and I wish that he had a little cooler arc. I thought the animation was phenomenal, especially at the very end when they were fighting on the space station. When his face, the little part of his face that he had, just basically his eyeball, his hair gets all messed up.
That's his original look.
That's
from
awesome.
94.
I think that's so badass.
And so this came out after T2, basically. So
I think that's awesome.
Draws a lot from Terminator.
When you finally find out it's that guy Hank whatever.
Hank Henshaw.
And the look on his face, he's got bags under his eyes, his hair gets all wet, and he's like, I'm here to kill you. Like, he turned so fast, and he was like so evil then. I liked him better when he was standing there pretending to be
Superman.
And he's getting those weird flashbacks. That was cool. I wish they did more with him, but I get it. You got to share screen time with everything else going on. But I could totally watch just a movie on him.
Mm-hmm. My favorite
Don't say
is Eradicator.
Ugh.
I think the glasses are a little different look.
Dorky.
It makes him look more alien, I guess, because nobody
really
wears
thin. He had a thin head.
glasses like that. Well, I think he did his hair differently. I think he was a little character designy, but in the comics, everybody but Steel and Superboy look like Eradicator and Cyborg Superman are drawn the exact way those artists drew Superman.
Okay.
So it was like meant to be like a true. This guy's a true imposter. This guy's a true imposter. That guy's in a metal suit. I don't know. That guy's a kid. Yeah, I don't know, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So it was like a dueling thing, and then the public actually, same as the movie, did think that Cyborg Superman was the real deal, and then he turned out to be the bad guy. But I love the design of the Eradicator. Like, I love when they enlarge the S shield so large that it connects to the cape and goes down, like it takes up his whole chest.
Yes.
I love when they do that. I love the little like lines and designs on his hands and stuff. Like, some people don't like that; it's too busy. But this was a simplified one.
He was truly a hologram. He wasn't even real.
Yes.
And they recharged the tank to make him a hologram.
He was gathering energy for Superman and recharging him.
He was gathering energy by killing people. Okay.
I don't know.
Wouldn't Superman be like, yo, bro, quit killing peeps?
He does serve Superman in some capacity in the comics. In this storyline, I don't remember the exact details. I've read it once and once only.
Okay.
So it's not one of my favorites that I go back and reread. Like,
how do you feel knowing that this whole time, this entire crisis could have been avoided entirely if they took Superman out of that dark space and just let him see the sun, and he could have all his power back 1 fucking minute after he dies?
I guess so. You would explain it. A comic book writer would know history and powers and go, well, the Kryptonian robots that are taking care of him in the Fortress of Solitude, the Crystal Place, don't know or don't have the information that the Earth's sun was going to give him so much power that they instead relied on the regular Kryptonian technology to revitalize him.
I wrestled with this idea in the movie, thinking that maybe had you launched him into outer space immediately, he would have been too weak and he would have suffocated because he was just as a man.
It's possible.
That said, you could have just laid him out on like a skyscraper somewhere just to see what happens.
Yeah.
But I understand. I'm not. I mean, it's more of a joke. But
like Superman's, how much he can get hurt and stuff all depends on the writer and what they want to do. Like Dark Knight Returns, there's that great scene where Superman's stopping the nukes coming from Russia. And one of the nukes blows up, and there's one panel of Superman. He's all withered and like a skeleton, and then the nuclear cloud goes away. Yeah. And the solar radiation comes back, and you see him like, puff up again.
Turn to a flower.
Stuff like that.
I liked, I think, going back, though, you made me think of something else. The Cyborg Superman fight at the end, I really lost a lot of respect for him when he couldn't kill Lois. Because she's nobody. And she's running around doing backflips in outer space. Yeah. In a gunfight with this guy.
Yeah.
I get it. She opens the door, which lets the sunlight in. Okay, that was a cool... She got shot like 18 times. I'm like... Dude, you fly like 900 miles an hour. I assume you have the same powers as Superman. Just like just slam into her and just... And then she's done. But I get it. I mean, I understand the story part. Because they weren't afraid to show... I wouldn't say gore. But there was a lot of mature stuff. I mean, those cops at the very beginning got murdered. Mm-hmm. Aquaman's army, I don't know what they're called.
Yeah, they got eaten.
They got eaten. There's arms and stuff. So, like, they're not afraid to, like, go that way. Obviously, you're not going to kill Lois Lane, but... it seems sometimes they were a little more aggressive with some stuff, and then they turn around and then it's like, oh, you're going to get shot, and she just has like a little mark, like her shirt's a little ripped. I'm like, you just got shot in the arm. Your arm would blow off.
She should have like a third-degree burn in her arm, really. Yeah, you're right.
But nitpicky stuff. The last nitpicky thing.
I guess you could justify that by going, he's a villain, he's focused on Superman, he knows she's human, she doesn't ultimately stand a threat against him in his mind, power-wise. So instead of killing her, it's more like a brush aside each time. Yeah. She's like it's a warning shot, like quit messing around me, go away, fly, that kind of thing.
Just like you don't throw a grenade in a room and there's a mosquito. I get it. The only other thing that really bothered me, and again, I understand there's a story point, when Cyborg Superman starts giving people the power to become the super army or whatever they're called.
Yeah, that was not in the books.
He gives them all these, they all start coming, okay. I thought it was a cool idea. It was very clear that, like, he was building an army, but people thought they were helping. It really lended into him being a villain, because at that point, it still wasn't clear. He was having some weird visions. You realize he had flashbacks of him being that Hank guy on his knees in the outer space, whatever. I like that. But then when the Justice League shows up, they all form a circle. Not the Justice League, these cyborg army.
Yeah, these taking over
They
people.
form a circle, and then, what's the villain's name?
Darkseid. They're meant to become... They ultimately become like the boom tube that Darkseid comes through.
They're gonna come...
Which doesn't make any sense because Darkseid has mother boxes, and he can create boom tubes whenever the fuck he wants. Okay. So why he needs Cyborg Superman to create a portal, I have no idea.
I wasn't even aware of that.
It's a movie thing.
But... not even that. I'm okay with that. That he's going to use them as a portal to bring in his army to destroy Earth because... Maybe
he needs it to bring in his big-ass ship. I don't know.
The problem I had was when they're all in a ring, the entire Justice League stands, freaking shoulder to shoulder, and then the little tube comes down and sucks them all to the alien planet. Oh. Why the hell would you...
Why didn't even Flash move?
Nobody reacted. The portal's like, hey, look, the portal's coming down. It's going to suck us away. Okay. And it's like 5, 4, 3, 2... Oh, no! And then they vanish.
I have no idea.
It bothered me that, and I get it. You got to get rid of them. It's Superman's story. He's got to be the hero of the story, and he was. And for that, amazing. But, and I get it. In a sense, it's a comic, and you just go with the...
So, I guess the problem you have with this version of the Justice League is the one in the comics...
They're like a bunch of boobs.
The Justice League in the comics were a bunch of boobs. It was Booster Gold, this guy named Bloodwind, Fire. It was not the 7 classic Justice League characters.
When did that... Was that the New 52 that brought them together?
the original incarnation, the Grant Morrison run in the mid-90s after Superman came back to life, and then New 52 was 7 again.
So I think...
And the Justice League cartoon was like where it was like fermented and everybody...
Because I watched it... When I read the first issue of the New 52, those guys were on it.
Right. That's classic.
It was a super well-oiled machine, and I know it did a flashback. I kind of zoned out.
That's classic Justice League. So by changing the members of the Justice League to be the ones everybody knows and wants to see,
gotcha.
You create. I guess the writers thought maybe they created themselves a power thing because you had Justice League go against Doomsday, right? And Doomsday mopped the floor with him, but that's not to say that the Justice League couldn't mop the floor with all these Supermen or Cyborg Superman.
Yeah.
So you had to get rid of them in a way to tell the rest of your story.
Understood. And I get it. I think that Superman really... It was almost as if he didn't need them because he pretty much did most... And even for the most part, Superboy and Steel were holding their own from at least what the little bit we saw at that major battle at the end. And when the Justice... And every time they had the Flash, it was like, hey, Flash, go clean up bodies. Hawkeye didn't talk.
Hawkman's in both these movies, but he doesn't have any line. He doesn't have a voice actor. I don't even think he has a grunt.
And he looked dorky. I didn't like his costume.
So the problem with Hawkman in these animated shows half the time, like this one especially, they draw him with his wings folded. Like anytime you see an angel, when they're standing, their wings are folded in half.
Yeah.
And that's the way they drew him. Like anytime you get a toy of Hawkman, half the time his wings are that way. Okay. And then you try and fly, and it's like a bird trying to fly without his wings fully extended. So they didn't bother to animate his full wingspan like they did in the animated series. I was more
agitated with his face.
His mask?
His mask looked like he had a big bird beak nose. So
yes,
I couldn't tell if he was an alien or if he took the mask off. Does he have a normal face or does he have a
depending on the version of Hawkman they were using.
That's the thing.
I don't know.
He doesn't belong.
He's always an alien. Well, sometimes he's an alien that looks just like a human, or he's a human that's reincarnated a bunch of times. But every time he's wearing a big helmet shaped like a hawk's head, but just from his nose up. So it is awkward because it's fucking large.
It is. So I think he could have gone. I think I understand.
I don't know why he was there. They didn't use him at all.
That was a
he
waste.
could have left. Yeah.
Cyborg, of course, the best Justice League member, remains to be true. He's still amazing. I love him the best.
Okay.
I would say if I had to... Okay. I think I gave Ninja Batman a 9 out of 10 because I love ninjas. I'm not in love with Batman. He's okay. He's not my favorite, but he's cool. But I love these... I say the Elseworld. I use that word way too liberally, but these one-off stories that have nothing... one day... Batman gets whisked into a portal and he's in 1400s, whatever the time frame is, Japan. I love that. This movie is a standalone thing. I understand that you said it feeds into other stuff and the continuity. I don't care about that. As a standalone thing, how would you say this movie rated? You give it a number? Like 10 is the best? 1's the worst. Where would you put it?
Death of Superman, I would put at a 9.
I would agree with
That's
that.
one of the better ones I've seen in a long time, and I've seen them all. I own them all because I'm a completionist, and I like the special features on them. Reign of the Supermen, I'd give a 7.
So I would agree with you on the 9. For me, a guy who doesn't care about any of this, I cared. It made me care, and I didn't cry or anything like that, but I was really sad when I knew he was going to die. It's the name of the damn show. But he really put it out there for Lois, and I thought, like, this guy's a hero. Like, he really is who we all want to be like him. Right. He's the man.
Yep.
The second part turned into stand-up comedy, very bizarre. As cool as Steel was, as cool as Cyborg Superman was, I think it fell way flat. I think it's more like a 4.
Really?
It was not.
Whoa!
And I really, really like Cyborg Superman.
Whoa!
It wasn't good.
I see your points. I justify your points, but you're dead wrong.
I just feel like there was too much. It didn't know what it wanted to be. It was such a tonal shift. Very bizarre choices by the heroes. Very bizarre choices by everybody involved. I couldn't even put on my superhero glasses and say, this is a story, just make believe. There were too many things that I watched and I'm like, this is taking me out of the experience. Looking at you and just laughing, it's just like, I wasn't blown away. I can suspend belief. Okay, there's an alien with superhero powers. I'm on board. I'm with you.
Okay.
But I will say that I liked the idea. And I thought it was I think you really need the second one to tell the first one. And I think without the second one, the first one isn't as good.
Do you think Reign of the Superman completes?
I do. I think
Death
you
of
need
Superman?
it.
I think Death of Superman stands on its own.
Okay, see, to me, I think
You don't need it to watch. You don't need Reign of the Superman for Death to be as good as it is. You need Death for Reign to be better.
If I watched Reign on its own, it may be better because I would say, oh, this is just a throwaway adventure.
Okay.
But because you had such a jaw-dropping, I mean, Superman's dead. The reaction of that bimbo crying, holding the picture, and all these little kids, like, their hero's gone. Like, oh my God, this guy, the Justice League's in shambles. This villain, Billion's dead. Everybody's missing. Clark's missing. So-and-so. And then it's like, scene 2, here comes Jester Superboy. You come Superman. And it's like, oh no.
Hey Lois, how old are you? Old enough. Ding.
So, but I'm glad. I will say this in closing, and then whatever.
I have one closing question.
Oh,
for
okay.
you.
I was gonna say I'll let you. I have one thing I'll say, but you may.
This
go
is
first.
not. Mine's not related to movies. So you finish.
I was gonna say thank you for inviting me to this, and if there are more, I'd love to go.
You're welcome. I have one question for you.
Yes.
Out of the core Justice League members,
Okay, so the ones in the movie.
the ones in the movie,
Yes.
and there's a lot of animated movies to pick from. So, which core Justice League member are you interested in watching more animated movies about?
Cyborg.
Okay. Cyborg's only in the Justice League movies,
Oh,
so he doesn't have a movie of his own.
Okay.
Basically, you have like Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, Flash.
Okay. I know that
Wonder Woman
for
has
some
one.
reason Cyborg doesn't get the love he deserves. I don't know why.
He doesn't get the love he deserves because he was a secondary character. He was a third-rate character, second-rate character at best until 2011 when they made him retroactively a founding member of the Justice League.
I understand.
He was always in the Teen Titans. He's only created in 1983 or whatever.
Gotcha.
When
So he doesn't have the lineage.
he doesn't have the lineage. It wasn't that important.
Okay. So even though Cyborg is still my true favorite, I'll say a close second, definitely Green Lantern, because I don't like Hal Jordan. Okay. I don't like his personality. I think he's a weasel. Like he's too giggly and jokey.
Uh-huh.
I love Nathan Fillion, so there's a trade-off there. But I love his power. It's so unique that he comes up with these crazy constructs to fight. You know, the glove, the giant glove, the giant hand, the energy bubble, the shield, whatever. So if I like the movie I like the live action movie with Deadpool. I can't think of the guy's name.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, I thought that was a good movie. So if there are other Green Lantern movies that are just him, that are in this genre,
There are two.
I would be interested in
One of
checking them
them
out.
is an anthology story, and the other one is a origin story.
Oh. Okay. I'd be interested.
I like them both.
I would be interested in checking them out. I think, to me, what blew me away about the New 52, I know you didn't ask this, but I'm going to tell you. When I started reading it, for the year and a half I stuck with it painfully, I will remember the scene vividly because when I first got into it...
You like terrible books. You like Deathstroke
because it's the best.
more than the Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo Batman. You dropped that
Yawn.
instead of sticking with it.
What I was going to say
Loser.
was that, and then I'll let you go because I've talked way too much, I know. But I want to say this. There's a scene in the first Justice League #1, and I had I think I threw it away. But at one point I had the physical book. I didn't have a tablet then. Where they're fighting, I don't know who, but Green Lantern summons a fire truck
yeah.
and slams into a guy. I think that is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Then you need to watch the movie called Justice League Origin. It's animated. It's the exact same style as this.
I'd watch
the
it.
exact same cast of Justice League.
Okay.
And it's
I will watch it.
that story. That moment is in the movie, and it's Nathan Fillion.
Oh, well, that's even better.
There you go.
Do you think... okay, I'll check it out. And then I'll report to you.
Report back. Report back.
I'll do a video or a mini recording for your channel.
Just do a video.
Okay, I will do that for you.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening. As always, keep it cool. Thanks for being on Comic Timing, Jim. And
thanks for having me, and good luck with the show.
Thanks, everybody. Follow us, whatever. Have fun.
Follow them on Facebook and on... Do you guys have a Twitter?
Comic Timing doesn't have a Twitter. Comic Timing is on Facebook.
Why don't you have a Twitter?
Because then somebody's got to run the damn Twitter account.
Okay.
I like stuff on Twitter. I don't really post. Ian posts.
But you don't like what he posts?
He posts his personal stuff. It's not comic related all the time.
I'm not volunteering myself, but you need a social manager. But I'm not volunteering myself.
Well, we don't do a very good job with our Facebook posted following, so what good would Twitter be? Yes. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for listening, and as always, there's always time for comics.